that Rambam, I quoted the Rambam yesterday. Beautiful Rambam. The person wants to, I got to quote this, I got to mention this more. I haven't mentioned it enough. Meaning, as a rabbi, there's certain things that you want to speak about. And sometimes when you see it inside, when you see someone quote it, you might say something, but you might not, but when it's put so nicely together, the Rambam we mentioned last night, where the Rambam says if a person wants to merit for himself, he should bend his Yetzer Hara, he should break his evil inclination, and be generous and bring an offering from the better or from the best or from the better or the most best within that species that you're bringing, and the source is from that story of Hevel. That Hevel he brought an offering he brought from the better ones. Hashem accepted it. Then the Rambam says that story of Hevel applies to all matters. That's religious matters. That it should be from the better ones. If you build a place of shul, it should be nicer than your own person, better than your house.
This is from the Rambam's Halachot.
Rambam Halachot, right. If you're giving the poor man to eat, you should give him from the better of your table. If you're clothing the poor, you should get from the better items of your property, not just give him the second hand. Give the poor person the second hand, or the food that's yesterday's food, I'll give to the poor man. The typical story of the poor man is you give him a piece of bread, piece, not a whole thing. It doesn't. What are you giving him bread? Bread. Okay, it's a basic staple, but it doesn't sound like. It sounds like you're just giving him bread. What about other foods? If you sanctify something, make something hegdish, give him the better. Making something want to make it, give it to the hegdish, sanctify something which is from the better parts of your property. Don't give. Okay, I'll give something. I have something that's not so good. So I'll write it off to charity. I'll give it to hegdish. Rather give a donation. Give from the better stuff. And then he brings a source we find called Chelev LaHashem, fatty to Hashem, fat to Hashem, the good. That's a symbol. That's the teaching from this week's parsha, that when you do something in a religious way, you're buying an esrog. Don't just buy it, just the basic esrog, basic etrog. Doing an etrog, you're doing the mitzvah. Do it from the better. Mezuzah, etrog. That's the big lesson in life. How to do a mitzvah, the way to do a mitzvah. Okay, I was just inspired by that Rambam last night, so now we shared it here. Now it's on the Zoom. Anybody who wants to hear it, it's available to hear. Okay, we're getting back to our Gemara. Adam, if you want to
43b3.
Yeah, 43b3. And hopefully we'll be saying this Rambam over again and again until we'll know it by heart, Adam.
I learned the Rambam what he said about what do you think about this? The machloket between Rambam and a Barbanel on the sacrifice to say, it's mostly.
What's the purpose of the sacrifice?
Yeah, that whole thing. I was reading that in his. I have a Chumash, Rambam Chumash.
Oh, very good.
He takes the commentary from the philosophical books.
And he puts it onto the Chumash.
Yeah.
Very good. Maybe we'll go back. I think 43b2. 43b2. Amalahu Rav Sheshet. All right, everyone got it? Amalu on the first column. Amalu Rav Sheshet. Now remember, we've been learning this for a long time. We've been discussing regarding Mukseh. Rav Yitzchak had a strict opinion, which is not the halacha, doesn't seem to be the halacha, that you only can move a movable item only for the purpose of another movable item. You can't move a movable item for the purpose of a muksa item. You can't go ahead and move a plate to cover an egg that was born on Shabbat, because the egg that was born on Shabbat is muksa, and the plate is non-muksa, and you're moving a non-muksa item for the purpose of a muksa item. You want to protect the muksa item. We said the halacha is I can move a plate to cover an egg. I can't move a plate to catch the egg, because then I'm making the plate unusable. I'm a vatal kli me'achano, but if I go ahead and I cover the egg, it's not underneath the egg. The muksa is not resting on the non-muksa. The non-muksa is on top of the muksa item. So there we said there's a machloket, can I do that or not? The Bittul said I can't do that. Now the Gemara wants to bring a support to that opinion. Amalu Rav Sheshet said, you sent to the group, Adam? Thank you very much. Poku v'amrulei. Go ahead and say to Rabbi Yitzchak, Kvar targama Rav Huna l'shmaitech. Rav Huna also has already taught your statement, your learning, what you said, b'Bavel, in Bavel. Meaning Rabbi Yitzchak was from Eretz Yisrael, and Rav Huna was in Bavel, and he's saying your thing. He's in sync with you. He's in agreement with you. How do we see that? Dama Rav Huna says, Osin mechitza lemeit ve'ein osin mechitza mate b'shvil chai ve'ein osin mechitza mate b'shvil mate. What does that mean? That means a mechitza, you want to make some sort of partition. So you could make a partition. We'll see how you're making this partition. We're not talking about building a partition, but we'll see how you can make some sort of partition when the sun is out for the purpose of protecting the body, the corpse, because the sun is beating down on the corpse. And if the sun beats down on the corpse, Rashi says there's a concern. Maybe it's going to get putrid, it's going to get smelly very fast because of the heat, which would not be respectful for the corpse. Rav Huna says you can make a mechitza, you can make this partition on Shabbat with your mindset is to protect the dead body, as long as you're making this mechitza in a legal fashion, in a legal way, in a proper way, but meaning you could make something that's going to serve as protection to the dead body, but you can't, as long as you made it originally to protect a live person, and now that it was protecting a live person, then somehow a byproduct of that, the dead body will be protected. But you cannot make a partition in order to protect the dead body if you're only doing the partition to protect the dead body, which would mean to say, I can't move something to protect the dead body just like that. Meaning, why can't I just take a bed and stand up the bed this way? Or better yet, why can't I just put a cover over the dead body? So if I put a cover over the dead body, the sun will not beat down on the dead body. It'll beat down on the cover. That the cover would I want to put a mat to cover the dead body. Why can't I just put a mat to cover the dead body? The answer is because the mat is a movable item. The dead body is muktzeh. A dead body on Shabbat, we don't bury on Shabbat. The body has no use on Shabbat. It's separated from use, has no purpose to be handled on Shabbat. So if a person passes away on Shabbat, the body is muktzeh. Person passes away before Shabbat, the body is muktzeh. There's nothing. Once Shabbat comes, there's no use of the body. So the person can't just take a mat and just throw it over the body on Shabbat. Why not? The mat is a movable item. The body is a non-movable item. The answer is I can't move a movable item for a non-movable item, for a purpose of a non-movable item. That would be the implication, which would seem to be in sync with the teaching of Rabbi Yitzchak, that you cannot move a movable item for a non-movable item. And there's a big chidush that it would come out, even though it's for the purpose of a dead body, which we're very into kavod hamet, we're very into protecting the dead body, respect for the dead body, but the rabbis did not push away their prohibition of muktzeh in this situation. And therefore, the only way according to this opinion, the only way you could go ahead and cover the body is by placing, by doing something with the intention of protecting the live body. And then simultaneously the dead body will be protected. Now the Gemara is going to explain what is that mahi? What are you talking about? What are you telling me? What do you mean I can make a machitza, some sort of partition that will protect the live person, and then the body will be protected, but I can't make a machitza to protect the dead body. What does that mean? And also, the Torah law is against autopsies. Autopsy is when a person passes away, they want to find out the cause of death. So
it's like an investigation.
It's an investigation. They cut the body, and they figure out certain things. What was the cause of death? And
What if it's like a murder?
so it's a good question, because they're doing it for a purpose to find the killer. It's a good question. I'm not familiar enough with this subject, but the basic law of autopsy that's forbidden. Person passes away. How did he pass away? However he passed away, but there's not allowed. It's not allowed. That doesn't justify the cutting of the body. It's a disgrace to the body. There was a story, I'll mention to you. There was a great rabbi in the Mir Yeshiva, Rabbi Brudney. Now you know the name. His father.
Oh.
So I think the story goes with his father. I think that his father was a big rabbi in the Mir Yeshiva before him.
Okay.
And his father passed away 40-something years ago. I think it was pretty sudden. And the laws was they would do autopsies. There was a state assembly speaker from the Lower East Side in our neighborhood, Shelley Silver. He passed many autopsy laws that, people, for religious reasons, they can't do autopsies. Protected the rights of the Orthodox community. But he only became an assemblyman in the late 70s. And I don't know when he passed those laws. It was probably in the 80s or whatever. But until then, they want to make the hospital had a right to do autopsies, and I presume they did it even against the will of the families, the religious rights of the families. So I think the story of Rabbi Brudney's father was that he died suddenly, and they were going to do an autopsy, the hospital, and of course, Jewish law did not allow it. So I think the story goes that one of his students was maybe it was a doctor or connected with the medical field, Somehow he got into the hospital, had a nice white coat. Somehow he was able to get the body and to get the body out and prevent an autopsy like it was like a undercover mission.
Right.
It was not exactly according to the hospital rules. Something that's like a famous story. I think it was his father. Um, maybe one day we could have Rabbi Brudney's son, Rabbi Brudney that we know, tell the story. That's a fascinating story.
That's crazy.
But the Rebbe, the Rosh Hashiva, he should that his body should be disgraced. So that's and Moshe Feinstein, what I recall, has in his letters, Igrot Moshe, he has about autopsies, about the issue about what I recall. It's nivel hamet. It's a disgrace to the body to cut the body.
It's like you can't be
Right. So similar concept, just to give your body parts of your body out, just to you know exactly, exactly. Good morning, Asaf. It's supposed to be buried. The body's supposed to be buried. Remember, the body's it's going to be Tchiat HaMeitim. One day the body will come back. Okay, so the Gemara says, good morning, Asaf, Boker Tov. So the Gemara says, Mahi. What do we mean by this? About making a partition. You can't make a partition for some sort of protection for a dead body unless you make it for a live body. What does that mean? Then what? So the Gemara says, listen, now obviously, like I said, we're not talking about rebuilding a real partition. Domer Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. Shmuel, the son of Yehuda, said, "V'chein Tana Shila Mari." And Shila Mari also said in a Braita, "Meit hamutal b'chama." There's a dead body that's in the sun, and there's a concern that the body will become putrid. Bo'im shnei bnei adam. Two people come, v'yoshvim b'sido. Two people come next to the dead body, next to the corpse, and two people sit, one on each side of the corpse. And where are they sitting? They're sitting on the ground. And it's boiling hot outside. The sun is beating down. So cham lehem amata. So it's going to get the ground is going to get hot. It's going to be hot for them. So what are they going to do? Zem mevi mita v'yoshiv aleha. This one is going to bring a bed and he's going to sit on the bed because it's hot. This guy. So we have two beds, one on the right of the dead body and one on the left of the dead body. Zem mevi mita v'yoshiv aleha. Zem mevi mita v'yoshiv aleha. Cham lehem lemala. Now it's hot for them because they're sitting on the bed, but the bed, their heads, their bodies are exposed, and they're exposed to the sun. So it's going to be hot for them on top. So what do? Mevi'in marcelet. Good morning, Nathan, and Boker Tov. With Boker Tov and good morning is the same thing. Okay. So we're discussing, Nathan, we're discussing a case, an opinion in the Gemara that says that a person cannot move a non-muksa item for the purpose of a muksa item. And therefore, the Gemara says according to that opinion, if there's a corpse outside, let's say in a place where there's no problem of moving, of carrying, we do not allow, according to that opinion, we have to see more we don't allow just to cover the dead body to protect the corpse from the beating sun that's beating down on the corpse. Because there's an issue that we're concerned that the heat might make the body decay, smell faster. And therefore, we have what do we do? What are we allowed to do? So if you would hold that you can move a movable item for a non-movable purpose, because you're not moving the non-movable item, you're just moving the movable item. So it would seem to be simple, just cover the mate, cover the body. And we find that would be the law by an egg that was laid on Shabbat, that's mukseh, that you're allowed to cover the egg to protect the egg from people stepping on the egg. Morning, Boker Tov. Good to see you. Welcome back. So we're discussing a fascinating, Jake just walked in, which is going to bring him up to date. We have a machloket in the Gemara. How far does the rabbinic prohibition of muksa go? Right? The rabbis said we can't handle everything on Shabbat. They don't want us handling everything. They limited certain things that we can't handle. We can't handle money. We can't handle tools. Under certain circumstances, we can handle certain tools if we need to place, or if we need to use a tool for a permitted purpose. But but the rabbis created many items I can't move on Shabbat, right? One reason is the Rambam says the rabbis don't, if I handle everything on Shabbat, if I move everything, it'll be like a weekday. I'm busy with handling everything. I'll be distracted the whole Shabbat. I won't really be resting on Shabbat because I'm moving everything around. I like to give the example of a Sunday morning in New Jersey, or any people who have houses in the suburbs. People are in the garage the whole day on Sunday. A lot of the Americans, what are they doing the whole day? They're moving stuff around in the garage. What do they do on their day off from work? So if Shabbat, if you would be able to be in to handle everything on Shabbat, I'm not going to work. I'm not working today. I'm in the garage. I'm moving everything. I'm reassembling everything in the garage. You're not resting. That's one reason that's given. Other reasons the Rambam gives, there's certain items, if you're able to handle, you might come to do a forbidden act with those items. Interesting. The Reuven says, he says that maybe the rabbis were concerned if you handle everything, you might come to carry things outside in places where you can't carry if you'll be handling everything. There's many reasons that are given why we can't handle certain things. So now the question is, what about if I want to move a movable item, a non-muksa item, for the purpose of a muksa item? Did the rabbis extend the prohibition that far? That I can't move, let's say, a non-muksa item. Let's say I have a muksa item and I want to cover the muksa. So let's say the sun shouldn't shine on the muksa. Someone shouldn't step on the muksa. Right? Let's say there's money on the floor and I want to just cover the money, right? So really, by the way, the halacha we find says you could cover the non-muksa item. You could cover the muksa item with a non-muksa item because you're not handling the muksa. Even though you are using a non-muksa, even though the purpose of you moving the non-muksa item is for a muksa purpose, right? So therefore, the Gemara says if the animal gave birth to an egg on Shabbat, and the egg wasn't prepared before Shabbat, the egg is mukseh, but if you want to protect the egg, then no one should step on the egg. You can protect it by throwing a utensil on top of the egg. But Rabbi Yitzchak is strict, which the halacha doesn't follow Rabbi Yitzchak when it comes to the egg. And he says you can't cover the egg. You can't move a movable item for the purpose of a mukseh. And the Gemara wants to support his opinion through the following story about a corpse. Because it says if there's a corpse outside in the sun, and it's Shabbat, Rav Yitzchak does not say that the Braita that was quoted says you have to be clever how to protect the corpse from the sun. You can't just, at least this opinion, we have to see the halacha, you can't just throw a mat on top of the dead body. Let's say in a place where there's no problem of carrying. It's in the backyard. You can't just throw a mat, which is a mat is a movable item, just to protect the mate. You want to protect the corpse from the sun, you can't do it. What do? So he's going to say a very creative thing that you do. You take two people come and they sit on the side of the corpse. One on the right side of the corpse and one on the left side of the corpse. And when the sun gets, and they're sitting on the ground, Rashi says, sitting on the ground. And because they're doing that, Morning, good to see you, Steve. And they're sitting on the ground, then it gets hot. You're sitting on the ground, the sun is out, it gets hot. So you're not going to want to sit on the ground. So what are you going to do? You're going to bring beds, and each one is going to be sitting on a bed on the side of the dead body. And then when they're sitting on the bed, it's going to get hot for them. It's going to get hot for them because they're in the sun. They're sitting on a bed in the sun. So what are they going to do? Mevia Masalet, they're going to bring a mat, and uporsin aleim, they'll spread the mat on top of them, and on on top of them, and on top of the dead body that's between them, right? So we have one guy here, one guy here, one bed here. They're on the beds, and in the middle is a corpse, right? We have the corpse in the middle. The space in between my fingers is the corpse. And here's one bed of a live guy and one bed of a live guy. Corpse is here. But now these guys are sitting on the bed and the sun is beating down on them. So what I do is you take a mat and you put the mat, you hold the mat in mid-air over this bed, over the dead body, and over the second bed. So now the people are protected. But now, not only if the mat goes from this side to this side, and in between is the corpse, so now you have protected the what? The corpse. But you brought the mat to protect the people, the sheet to protect the mat to protect the people. It happens to be that the corpse gains on the deal because the corpse is in between the two beds. What do you call that? Ingenious? Is that the right word? Creative? Is that the right word? That's how you would, so to speak, be able to protect the dead body, but you're not directly moving the non-muksa item for the muksa. You're moving the non-muksa item for permitted purpose for a person. And then you have the sheet going across, covering the dead body, but someone's holding the sheet in midair. Then you take the beds, and he takes his bed and he stands up his bed. And he takes his bed and he stands up his bed. And the sheet that's already suspended in air will just come on top of those beds. And now you have a tent, you have a machitza, you have some sort of protection for this corpse. Now, why you have to make it this? Why can't you just why can't you just set the beds up like this? And why is this a problem of making a tent? You've made a tent on Shabbat. You've made it this side, the bed is standing, the bed is standing, the dead body's in the middle, but you have a cover now on top of the two beds. So there's an issue. You can't make a tent on Shabbat. You can't build on Shabbat. And the rabbi said you can't make a temporary tent on Shabbat. But that's only if you make this temporary tent in the normal way you pitch a tent. You pitch it, you put the walls up first, and then you put up the covering. But here, when the cover came first, that's where you spread it was spread. You spread the mat out first, and then they put the beds up. So to speak, the ceiling was there before the walls, and that type of temporary tent where it's not made in the normal way, that's not forbidden. So therefore, we took care of both issues. We're not violating the law of making a tent on Shabbat, and we're not going ahead and moving a movable item for the purpose of a non-movable item, because we moved the movable item for the purpose of protecting it was made for the purpose of the people that were there outside. So, so that therefore it's allowed. Now, Okay, so that's what the Gemara says. Chamalamala, mevi'in lehem marselet. They bring this mat, Morning Avraham. They bring this mat, and uparsan alehem, and it's spread over their heads. Zezokif mitato. This mitato, he raises his bed. V'nishmat v'holech lo. V'zezokif mitato, and this one raises his bed. V'nishmat v'holech lo. And then, as a result of that, v'nimseid, and it comes out, mechitza asuya. So it comes out that the morning jack, the mechitza was made me'aleha, that the protection was made by itself, right? It was not, it wasn't, didn't come, it didn't come, wasn't made, they didn't take out the bed originally for the purpose of the dead, of the corpse. They took out the bed, they brought out the bed for the purpose of the live people. And therefore they were able to create this situation where they spread out a cover on top of the dead body because the cover was originally there for them. Right? The cover was there for the live people because because the sun was coming down on the live people. And then at the end of the day, they have a nice protection for the mate once they stood up once they stood up the cover on top of the bed. So that protected them, right? And so now they have a protection. So they created. So then when they move the bed to now the question I was wondering how are they able to go ahead and move the bed, move the bed up, right? So either you could say, because that was, they created for themselves a place to rest, because now that you picked up your bed, and now because you were originally underneath this covering, and that which was covered for your purpose, for the live person, because the sun was being down on the live people as well as the corpse. The corpse was in the middle, so you have a right to pick up the bed, straighten out the bed for your purpose, to create something, a nice protection for you, and therefore you're allowed to do that. That wouldn't be an issue. So each person goes ahead and raises their once you and that's what Tosfos says. Tosfos says, because the Gemara says you could set your bed up and you could leave if you want. It says Zezo gave me tato v'holech lo v'nishmat v'holech lo. If you want, you could slip away and leave, and the other guy could go ahead and set up his bed, and if he v'nishmat v'holech lo, and if he wants, he could leave. Why? Because once you set up the bed and you made a protection for yourself, it's clear you made it for yourself.
So let's start with the distinction between for the purpose of yourself versus for the purpose of the corpse.
Right. Because yourself is a movable item. You're not muktzeh. You could take so therefore but the corpse is muktzeh. And therefore this opinion is saying you would not be able to move something for the purpose of muktzeh. If you want to move something in order to protect the mukseh, you cannot do that. So as long as you create a situation that you move the movable item to protect a non-muksa item, the fact that the muksa item gets the muksa item benefits, but it wasn't done directly for the muksa item. So it doesn't bother us that, okay, the corpse that was in the middle was protected gained on the deal. Because as long as it was moved to protect for the purpose of the life, that's what it means. You can make a machitza for the purpose to protect the dead body as long as it is made for the live person. And that will indirectly will protect the dead body. But you can't just take a sheet or a mat and just directly put it on the dead body because you moved a movable item for the purpose of a non-movable item. That is the opinion of Rabbi, which seems to be Rabbi Yitzchak's opinion. Okay, we'll see more on Monday. Very fascinating Gemara, everybody. But I love this how we can connect it to autopsies and different things. Everything is connected. It used to be a commercial. New York, I think you could say when you all connected, New York Telephone or something like that. Something like that. Have a great day, Asaf. All the best.